Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So I've been working really hard trying to get my song Drugstore Cowboy, the drum part done. And I had a little setback. We had a storm which set me back from coming here a couple nights. There was like 2 or 3 nights. And then I had to take a couple cedar limbs down from a cedar tree, which probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but the tree service couldn't get in because it's tight space. So took a crack at it, and I lodged a tomato planter that had a rusty spike on it. It literally slid into my arm and got stuck. I mean, just for a second, popped it out. But it was so rusty that I thought, well, maybe I should get a tetanus shot, so I don't get tetanus from all that rust or whatever. And it kind of I got the tetanus shot and everything, and then it swelled up like it had a little mouse under there. And it didn't really hurt, and it was completely minor injury. It was like a scratch. I just got nervous about the tetanus thing and just went and did that at the store. So it was like no big thing. But the tetanus shot had like a side effect. I think it's like a gravity side effect is what they call it. Like when you reach for something, it feels like your arm is like, ugh. And once you get going, I drummed with it, practicing, and once you got going, it was okay. But starting it was hard to pick your arm up. It's hard to describe, and it did it to both arms, even though I was injected on this side. But it made me feel better about this thing getting infected because I cleaned it up and everything, and swelling's going down. I mean, it was a minor injury, didn't even hardly hurt. I think the shot made more side effects than the injury did. But it caused me to not be able to practice quite as much. A few other personal setbacks going on and whatnot, causing my mind to wander. But back on it, and I have been practicing it, and I'm going to continue to practice it this evening. It's not that complicated, just it's more timing. And it's in 3/4 or 6/8, which is not as easy for me, as 4/4, because you have to think of it in sixes instead of sets of fours or sets of threes. It's weird, it's a little different. So it's a timing thing, and the little breaks, like where you have like a whole note extended, and then you got to come back in, getting the cues. And I think I went through and recorded separate cues on each of the things, so that I would know, okay, here's the moment we're supposed to come back in. So it'll be like whole note on a A, and then as the note continues, you're supposed to come back in on the B, and I just put a little click to give you that moment to know. It was tricky to line it up. It was tricky to get I should have remembered, whenever you do an acoustic guitar, like live on the Zoom or any kind of way you're recording, make sure, even if it's just a guitar, put some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, even if you just say it, or if you hit the guitar, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Just helps, because later, or in this case, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because later when you're trying to sync everything up and play along to it, if you don't have a proper click in, it becomes a really annoying thing to try to do later. I can attest to that. It's probably just my stupidity, but I could picture it being annoying for other people too. So, amidst all that, and my practicing guitar, working on my blues idiom stuff, I've really been working on trying to learn a musical language, which is like blues position scales and basically riffs, classic, well-known riffs and stuff, unbeknownst to me, which are like the basics for all rock and roll and everything. And you can literally, once you learn this language, if it moves you in the way that it's beginning to move me, music comes out, and it's really cool because it's giving me a new palette and boundaries that I had never explored, because my history as a songwriter was wanting to do it after I heard a couple of people. I could tell it was simple music, like Lou Reed and Bob Dylan. Later found out it wasn't simple at all, and those guys chose to be that way for a reason, but it was easier to execute. And so I would play simple little chords and write simple songs, and I had no language and I had no knowledge of blues music, besides growing up listening to lots of country and blues in South Texas, East Texas, where I came from. And then years and years, I've lived in Georgia for, I don't even know how many years now, like 30 years or something like that. And rural parts of small, this is South Georgia down here. This isn't Atlanta, whole different world, And there's different kinds of music that have emerged from places like this. So I've been in Texas and I've been in Georgia. I've been in the kind of places where I would have heard blues music and it would have been in the atmosphere, especially when I was really young. But I think I had a built-in rebellion to it, And growing up, when I grew up, our whole duty was to kill all the idols of the 70s and the 60s or whatever, which I didn't really do, but a lot of my friends did. They were into punk rock and stuff like that. And I just basically disregarded it as an exercise, learning something like that. I would come up with my tunes by playing basic chords, and Mark was such a great guitar player who was my writing partner and partner in the band as far as coming up with tunes and getting them arranged and putting them together. So I just was really pretty sloppy and didn't know much about guitar, and it was also limiting because I was only able to do a certain few things on guitar, so I think it was really musically limiting. Well, I got fascinated with the Stratocaster, and then somehow, I guess looking up things, Jimi Hendrix type things, I guess Jimi Hendrix is probably my entry into this type of playing as far as the guitar goes. And I started working on the Are You Experienced record, and then I found Anthony over at Texas Blues Alley, which that was a huge eye-opener because he takes the time to go through all the basic stuff, and you realize you've been playing this stuff all along, you just didn't know. And because I didn't have a roadmap or the sample always scares me because I think I'm going to get shocked. I need to get a grounded plug on it. It's not shocking me right now, but it always scares the heck out of me. But after going over to Texas Blues Alley, I realized that it's like a language, it's a roadmap, and if you start playing this stuff, and if you've got it in your heart and soul, all my years of growing up and listening to ZZ Top, for instance, they were doing authentic blues representation of it. And because it's a language of suffering, it's a language of people that are undermined and on the lower end, so they have the blues, And one of the interesting elements of it that I always have noticed and admired about it and thought was interesting is the character studies in blues, especially when it's somebody's story about themselves, and it's usually self-aggrandizing, and they're very usually a prominent person as far as getting women, and they obviously are greater than everyone else, and it's very braggadocious, and it has that element of no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm my own man, and I stand alone. And that's not always the theme. There's lots of themes of despair and suffering and all kinds of themes, but that's one dominant theme in the blues music, is that kind of braggadocious element, and that's sort of take me as I am, I'm a bad boy and I'm going to do my thing. And that's an appealing element, I think, for people, even if you don't choose to behave that way in your life. It's an appealing character, it's an appealing role to assume, and what's great about making music or stuff like that, even if you don't live a certain lifestyle, you can represent it in your songs and create these character studies and sketches of people that you've met, or that are elements of yourself that you repress, but in your music, you can just let it all out. So I find that element interesting, and I feel like I've probably written one of the most cliched songs in the history of time, but since I'm so new to the blues thing, and I didn't think I would be able to write in this idiom, I didn't think I would be able to, I don't know why, I just didn't figure out how to do it exactly. But after going to Anthony's site and playing these little riffs or whatever, started coming out. And this just popped out one day. The whole thing just came to me. It's kind of like the way that George Thorogood, Bad to the Bone attitude, or, I'm not even going to get into it because I'm not knowledgeable enough about blues. But if you listen to Texas blues, like Freddie and Albert King, people like that, and the people who recreated it, you'll get some of this attitude. And of course they do it better than anyone, but the interpreters do it as well, and I just find it fascinating, and it's what came out, and I don't know. I feel like it's a song about people who are these generational shifts that happen where you kind of feel hung out to dry a little bit because of your age, like you don't fit into the culture anymore, and that's kind of a surprise for people when that happens. I know that happened as I got older. Happened to me early on because I was in an entertainment type field, and a shift happened that left me old, you know, compared to the other people. So I know what those shifts are like. But anyway, this is this crazy tune I've written, and what I've got going here, I'm going straight into the Fender Deluxe. The Zoom is sitting right over there for the drums. I don't want to mess that all up. But when I get this song arranged properly, this is just the beginnings of the arrangement to lay it out and remind myself of what I was trying to do with it. I will record it, you know, my usual way where I use the external mics. So I'm just not going to do it today because I don't have a solid arrangement. You'll see. I've got all the parts laid out, and I can kind of go over, let me see what time it is. I can go over those parts. See, I always worry that I'm going to get, got like this getting shocked fear. Huh. Okay, so let me go to full screen on these lyrics. Okay, and then what I've got going here is I'm directly into the Fender Deluxe. I've got it on 7, trebles on like 3.5, bass is on 5. And I can push that some more to get more out of it, but this PA this is a DM 150, Dark Matter 115 by PV, and it's okay. I just bought it on a lark one day because I needed it for a get-together, and it's been the main thing I use to like sing when we do house parties and stuff, and in here as like a practice tool for myself, for like if I'm playing with you know, people besides just me. So I've got the guitar plugged directly into the Fender amp per usual. I'm either into the 18-watt or into this one. 7, treble 3.5, bass 5. I'm going to go all the way on the volume, but I'll just leave everything all the way up. I was rolling off. I might roll off. Let me see. That just sounds good the way it is. I could roll it off like this. Let's see if it's a difference. The kind of openness of it being wide open. So I've got like this little blues lick thing going that I've learned from, and it's in position 1, box 1, if you're interested in this kind of, yeah, I knew it was going to shock me. If you're, and I don't think it actually did, it just made me feel like I did, because the worst is when it shocks your lips live. Oh man, that's the worst. When I get a shock mic and you're in the middle of a gig and you're really passionate and you're trying to do your thing, and you come up to him, pow! Man, like right on a chorus or something, and you know, it scares you, shocks you, it really hurts. Okay, so let's see how I can pull this off, or if I can pull it off. But anyway, it opens with like, so this is in box 1 of the blues kind of language, and it works its way down. But this would be like an A box, but we're actually a half step down. So it'll sound different. You'll be like this. I'm like this. So if you're in standard, you need to go down 1/2 to match up with it. So I'm going to rake in. Okay, and then I've got this other little part that's like a Hendrix octave thing. Okay, so I guess I need to try to sing it and play it at the same time. This is the moment of truth where I get nerve rattled. Alright, here we go. And this is weird for me to sing and play a song like this. I don't usually make music like this, so it's kind of odd for me, but I figure I'm going to just throw it out there. It may end up being the dumbest, most cliche thing, and I'll hate it later and everybody will laugh. But my new attitude is I'm just going to put it out there, good or bad, finished or unfinished, because this is how I keep record of my progress, you know, as an artist or whatever, as far as making these little records go. Okay, and I open it with a. So I gotta get that right. You know I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna try it. I said you want it, and yes, this thing's inside me. You never try me, I'm just gonna fly with me, and yes, I'm a 20th century man, and I got nothing to share. Let me do that little bit right there. I'm a 20th century man, I got nothing to share. There ain't nothing you've seen before. Got no reason else. Okay, and then I'll go back to that original riff after that. Play it all the way through one more time. Okay, I play it through one more time. Then I'm gonna go to the second verse. Just a one time through, and then I'm gonna do some kind of cool little blues solo that I'll learn from Anthony's thing and piece it all together into something interesting and neat. And then after all that, I'm gonna come back to the one line. And then back to a chorus. This thing's inside me. You slip and try me. Let's go and die with me. And yes, I'm a 20th century man. I got nothing to share. There ain't nothing you see before. So, I don't know. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes. Maybe I should just end it like a cappella, like. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes. That's an idea. I'll try it now. Okay, so let's Let me just let me drink a little bit of water, and then I'll do it one more time through, just like the whole song, and see if I can get through it as like a song. Since I start worrying now that I've brought it in here, I start thinking, is there enough there, or should I go back to the drawing board, add another part? We'll see. Okay, so let's see if I can get through this thing one time through with all my ideas intact. Alright, so wake up the computer, and I can't guarantee I'll have all my little guitar tricks in place, the rakes and the chicka 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 chicka. This is A, I don't know exactly where I want those things, and B, I have trouble always executing them this early in the songwriting phase because I'm not used to playing it yet, and I have to play and sing at the same time, so timing issues. It's like a two-brush noise coming from that thing. It's really weird. It's coming from that. Thing's a kind of a piece of junk. Alright. So let's see what happens. If I can get through it like one time just to get the idea down. Turn up the lights on that computer screen. Alright, here we go. I don't know what to do exactly, but that's the beginnings of the arrangement. I think that coming out of the break, I'm going to go ahead and do another complete verse. So right then I just went. probably will put another line, you know, another round, and then. Now the 20th century man, I got nothing to say. Ain't nothing to see before. Got no reason, I guess. You know what's cool about songs like this is back when we were in a management company, a big time management company with Jackal, the band Jackal and Geffen, and Jesse the singer was actually the co-manager of it. So we would tour with them, and we would tour with Jesse's solo band called Marshall Clark as well. Or yeah, it was like a Jesse James Dupree band. Had members of Mother's Finest in it, plus John Hayes. But we would tour, you know, with these, and it was mainly with Jackal that this would happen, because there would be big crowds, just packed, you know. And they were looking for a certain type of music. Jackal fans that's a musical idiom of its own, blues based, and you know, it's like they're looking for bands that sounded like AC/DC essentially, ZZ Top, AC/DC, that kind of thing. And it's a certain type of music goer, listener, dedicated fan. They have super dedicated fans. It's an amazing fan base. I don't know what it's like anymore. I haven't been to a show in a while, but back when we were with them, it was amazing how many people. They just always, like every night, night after night, and just the dedication level. It's one of those bands that really brought something out in people, like just really dedicated. And I learned a lot from watching that. And I was isolated from my music in a lot of ways, and I could tell that they were not isolated from what they were doing. They weren't embarrassed by any of it, you know. So it was an interesting process. But we would play shows with them, and I remember the first time we did it, Jesse called us and said, "Hey, meet us in Hickory, North Carolina. We're going to do a run of shows. It starts there." And we were like, whoa, okay, wow. So we jump in the van and drive to Hickory. And when we get there, we see like a fight, a guy get kicked off a tour bus, all kinds of crazy stuff with people in the parking lot. You know, they're like waiting to get on the bus and everything. It's insane. And so finally, but we never go to the front of the club. We never go front of the house. We never see the crowd. We're like in the back the whole time with the bus. And so when we go inside, we go in through the back and we walk by the Jackal guys, and they all had like grins on their faces and everything. And I was like, why are they smiling so much? And so we walk past them and turn around and go across the, you know, towards the stage. And as soon as I got out into the stage, I realized that it was like just jammed with people, and there was like steam rising. And they were ready for Jackal, and we were the opener, you know. And I think that's why Jesse did it. He wanted to really throw us to the wolves. And so we started our set, you know, and we were considered in those days an alternative band, which meant that we were just the younger version, so we were playing the stuff that was, you know, our thing. And this was after Nirvana broke and stuff like that. So any band that was like not a standard rock band, that sounded more alternative or whatever, that's the category we were lumped into. And it was literally everybody was like locked into a hate fight, you know, like a battle between the two forces. The grunge and the alternative people were burying this music that was from the past, and the hair metal people, or I hate, you know, denigrate them, because not all bands that played that kind of stuff were like glamour bands. Jackal wasn't really a glamour band. They had some elements of that, you know, in the way they looked and everything. They were actually really all very attractive people, so they had some of that glamour look, because that was the look of the Sunset Strip look, but they were like Southern, so they had this whole other element. And Jesse had been around and was not like some glamour guy. He's like a really tough guy. It was actually a really tough band. If you don't pay Jackal what you've guaranteed, I saw some crazy stuff. Let's put it that way. You get paid when you work for Jackal. You get paid when you work for Jackal. All right. You don't leave until you get paid. You might have to go back. I saw that happen. I'm telling you, man, these guys do not play. That's the tough world. That's the tough world of rock and roll. But it's getting in front of those people and bombing, you know. So we get up on stage and go to turn on our amps, and they've detuned all our guitars. The guys from Jackal, and they're laughing their heads off back. So we look over and they're just laughing and pointing. You know, we're completely, and for me it wasn't that big of a deal because I sucked. But Mark is this amazing guitar player, and he's, you know, professional type person. So he was totally, you know, damaged up there trying to quickly get everything tuned. The entire crowd was looking at us very suspiciously. You know, they didn't like what they were seeing. And so I started, you know, I did everything I could to engage the crowd the best I could, but they weren't having it, you know, the music. As soon as they could tell that it wasn't, you know, what they were looking for, they went in full rumble mode and started just chunking stuff, you know, like beer cups, drumsticks, you name it, you know, bras and panties, every kind of little thing you can think of that you've ever heard in rock shows was getting chunked. And I was just like, wow, these people really hate us. It's the weirdest feeling. And I had actually read about artists being hated before. Like Bob Dylan and the band went on a tour, like an entire tour where they played electric guitars and like rock music instead of folk. And all the folk people that had followed Dylan were mad because he changed and plugged in and become a rocker. And he was actually a rocker first, sort of played a persona of being a folk person and went back to rock, and they did not like it. And it was impressive to me that artists would go out knowing that people were going to hate what they were doing. I think of Lou Reed and the Metal Machine Music Tour. If you want to see some amazing rock and roll behavior, check out Lou Reed's interviews with the European press during that Metal Machine Music. It's some of the most amazing stuff. He's got like, he's dyed his hair white. He's obviously junked up or whatever, and it's just, it's insane. It's as rock and roll as it gets. And I like that, you know, I've always been defiant like that. I have a certain amount of defiance. I don't care what people think, you know, but I'm also extremely sensitive when I hear how much they hate it. It's kind of a weird thing. But it really blew my mind how much they hated us, and I could not win them over. So towards the end of the set, it might have been the last song we played, Hank Williams' I Saw the Light, because that was a little trick that we employed. And it actually is the reason that we got interest in the record industry at all, because Jesse's brother Danny saw us playing and he thought we sucked, but then we played that song and he was like, huh, maybe these guys have something interesting about them if they chose that. And we actually got that idea from touring with Dash Rip Rock. They used to do that song, and I thought it was awesome, and sent me on an obsession with Hank Williams that I already had, but I really got crazed about Hank Williams during that time period. So we covered that I Saw the Light. We did like a rock. We just basically did the Dash Rip Rock version, and they kind of softened a little and sort of finally gave up, you know, let up on us a little bit. We were, you know, the whole night we were getting this from the crowd, and they sort of released the headlock a little and just let us breathe, and that was kind of nice. So I was like, huh. So there are ways to do your thing and then catch the crowd a little, you know, and get them going on your side. If you don't want to go full punk rock defiance, you know, and just just do your thing, and who cares, you know, what they think. But this song, I was thinking, man, I wish I'd had this song back then. I bet this could have worked. This like a stomp blues type deal. It has a little more something like that could have worked with that crowd. I don't know. It's impossible. One of the things that's always confounded music industry people is trying to figure out what makes people like things, like why crowds like certain kinds of music, and certain bands get these massive followings. If they could figure it out, you know, they would recreate it over and over again, but it's impossible. It's just like this weird thing. Nobody knows why. People try to predict like what Joe Sixpack is going to consume, and it's one of the toughest things. You would think that if this has been successful, we'll just put this out and they'll love that, and it just isn't the case usually. It's weird what becomes successful as far as like people, you know, large numbers of people appreciating it. All right, so enough of my yakking. But anyway, I find that interesting. Trying to please, you know, I don't know what everyone thinks about that. I know people want to please to a certain extent so that they can keep doing it and get some positive feedback. Like if everybody just tells you suck all the time, that could get so, you know, heartbreaking that you wouldn't be able to continue. So you need some kind of reaction from the audience, but you also want to challenge the audience. You don't want to just give them what they want or do exactly what's expected. It's kind of cool to just throw a monkey wrench in it every once in a while and just, you know, do your own thing, you know, and just do something weird that could suck completely, but at least you tried to do it. Or in this case of this song, I didn't try to do this. I didn't want to do it. I didn't think I could write anything that had any kind of blues feel to it. It just happened, and I think it's because I finally have an appreciation for it, and playing it is just really fun. I really enjoy it, and I realize now that it's so malleable to any style of music. You can take the things you learn from it and just go anywhere with it. It's just miraculous, actually. Such a beautiful thing. All right, next time. Okay, I wanted to show you the development of it. I think I played it better this time. I'm not guaranteeing this is a finished arrangement, but this is like more, just getting in the groove finally. All right, here we go. Take two. Okay, and then this is the third verse. You know I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna tell it. I still can't have it. Yes, this thing's inside me. You should never tell me that you're gonna fly it. Oh yes, I'm a 20th century man. I got nothing to say. Ain't nothing you've seen before. Got no reason, got no reason, oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. I don't know about that ending, but I don't know. We'll see. next time.